Hi there, I'm Monique Harrisberg, founder of The Voice Clinic. I founded The Voice Clinic in 1988, and the reason I started The Voice Clinic then was because I found that there were huge problems and issues with regard to the way that people speak. Many people don't realize that the voice counts for 38% of every communication message, which means every time we speak, we send out a message. So if we speak too fast, if we speak too slowly, if the voice gets too highly pitched, or if we whine through our nose, there's a different image that is created. So when we talk about presentation skills and speaking effectively, what's most important is that the quality of our voice is the best that it can be. And there are ways to learn to improve the speaking voice, starting with relaxation techniques, breathing techniques, developing a lovely low-pitched voice, so not a high-pitched squeaky voice, a voice that is rich, warm, and comforting to listen to. And the last area that's important as well when it comes to the voice is actually speaking clearly. So making sure that we articulate all the words, all the sounds, and that our t is a t, and our p is a p, and our b is a b, and the d is a d. Now, often because many people are speaking English as a second language, we may have certain pronunciation problems and pronunciation issues. For instance, do we say work or wake? Do we say there are many words that are issues? So it's very important that we listen to our own voices and work on getting them to be clearly understood by others. And of course, making it pleasing to the ear, because no one wants to listen to a harsh voice or a strident voice or a voice that is generally unpleasant or even a voice that we can't really hear. So it's vital that the voice retains interest and gets people to want to listen to us. And remember that our voices can also entertain other people. We can make people laugh with our voice. We can make people cry with our voice. So the voice is the most powerful instrument when it comes to communication. Many people are also scared of something called the pause. Now, when we pause, as I have just done, what it does is it creates interest, and there's a sense of anticipation, which makes you want to hear what the person is saying next. So don't be afraid to pause. Don't be afraid to speed up if you want to speak slowly if you want to, and also to really focus on engaging your audience. Now let's take a little step back to presentation skills. What are the important factors? Well, as mentioned, the voice counts for 38% of every communication message. 7% of what we say is related to the content, so people will only remember 7%. And the balance is the body language and the image that we project to others. So we have a choice in terms of our presentations of how we want to project ourselves. And part of that is analyzing who our audience is. So if you have an upmarket audience, or a very old audience, or a young audience, how will you adapt your style of speech and speaking? So that is the key. The other important area is, what does the audience want from you? Do they want to be entertained? Are you there to excite them, to motivate them, to want to buy something from you, or to change the world? Is it about climate change? Is it an important issue such as crime or gender-based violence? What are you wanting to project? What message are you trying to get across? So the message is key. And if you are focusing on getting your message across to your audience, you won't have time to be nervous or to be scared of what you're saying, or even too worried about how you're coming across. So the most important thing is, who is the audience, number one? What do they want from you? at that moment during that half hour or 5 minutes or whatever it is. And then how can you give them what they want? And if you can work out how to do that, you will be a very powerful and effective presenter and public speaker. So, who is the audience? What is the point? What is the message you're trying to get across? And then we come to what tools are we utilizing to project ourselves in the best way and most effective way possible. And that's where we come to, as discussed, the power of the voice. Now, our voice is a flexible instrument, so it can change from day to day and from time to time. I'm sure you're aware that if you're angry or upset with somebody, you'll have a different tone of voice. If you're happy and you're laughing, you'll have another tone of voice. So not only do we choose what message we want to project to our audience, but then we choose what kind of voice will match that message. So if it's a very serious, intense presentation, are we going to speak with a high-pitched voice? Not really, because we're going to lose our audience. So we need to focus on matching the voice, in a sense, to the content of what we're saying, so that everything works together with synchronicity. So there's one cohesive message that's coming across. Then we need to say, right, what body language are we going to use? Are we going to stand folding, crossing our arms? Are we going to wave our hands in the air? Are we going to just use gesture in a relaxed way? Are we on camera like I am now, so maybe we'll use less gesture? So those are all very important considerations. What are we doing with our hands? How are we standing? What kind of posture do we have? And how do we change that posture? So it's almost like you are the puppeteer and the other you is a little puppet. And you're positioning yourself or your little puppet in a certain way in terms of how you're standing, how this little puppet's going to move its hands or its face or its head, and how the puppet is going to speak. What kind of voice are they going to use? Then we look at the content of what we're saying and how that all comes together in a powerful, cohesive message. There's another important area that I haven't mentioned yet, which is in fact our clothing. What message are we choosing to project through our clothing? Are we in a school uniform? Are we in a businessman or woman's suit? Are we in casual jeans and t-shirts? What is the message our clothing is projecting? So for anyone watching this, the first thing is, let's start with the outward. Work out what is the message you're trying to project? Who is the audience? What are you going to wear that is going to impress or relate you to that audience more easily? What's going to help you to establish a rapport with the audience? So if you are going to be talking to a bank or a bunch of investment people who are going to invest in your business, are you going to wear jeans and a t-shirt? Or are you going to dress like them in a business suit? So it depends on what you're selling. If you're selling advertising or something creative, you may decide to wear the jeans and t-shirt because that represents your brand and your image. If you are selling something that's in the financial industry, perhaps you wear a suit or a tie and look very formal and professional. So we have these choices. So I would suggest before any presentation, you take out a piece of paper, you work out what is the purpose of the presentation, who is the audience, what do I want to get or achieve at the end of the presentation, what tools do I have to get me there? Number one, the voice. What quality voice am I going to use? I need to think about that very carefully. Slow, fast, interesting, varied, clear, commanding. What kind of tone of voice? Then you would say, right, what kind of body language are you going to use to project and further reinforce that message? And then you're going to say, do I want to have fun when I give this presentation? Because all presentations and speeches are a way of us connecting with each other. So even when you have a conversation with one person, That is almost as if you could be talking to 5,000 people. So you need to pretend, if you are nervous, that those 5,000 people who may be watching you or listening to you is actually only one person, and have a dialogue and a communication with them. Because when we give a speech, it's not one directional, it's two-way. You'll speak, the audience will react. They'll listen, they'll look at you, they'll smile, they'll laugh, and there will be a communication. And if you can see presentations and public speeches as a two-way communication, you will be a wonderful, engaging, and fantastic speaker. Best of luck and best wishes from the Voice Clinic.